Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's flow is hip focused. We're going to work active and passive poses in the hips and also throw in some balance elements. So just for starters, I'm sitting in my easy pose or cross-legged position, just taking a few breaths to settle into the body and be prepared to spend some time with yourself. Slowly start to walk your hands forward on the mat, just taking a gentle fold here, a little collapse over the legs. Try to release the head and the neck and just feel that curve of the spine. Trying to breathe into this and relax as much as possible into the fold. If that's feeling good, you can stay there or you can continue to walk the hands out further away from your legs, staying collapsed. If you'd like to make this more of an active stretch, you can extend the arms and keep tension there to keep more activity in your shoulders and your back. Start to walk the hands back in towards the legs. Come back to a sitting position. We're going to switch the legs around. So put the other shin in front. This one might feel a little more unnatural, but we're going to take that fold again, walking the hands out and trying to collapse over the legs. You should already start to feel this pretty intensely in the hips. This is our first kind of hip opening stretch of the practice. Wherever you are in your fold, start to sit back up straight. We're going to take our feet out in front of us about as wide as our mat, knees pointed up towards the ceiling. Make sure you have room to the sides of you. We're just going to let the knees collapse to one side of the mat and then rotate back towards the other. This just loosening up what we kind of just started stretching and opening in the hips. We're trying to let that front knee touch the floor before we switch to the other side. Going back and forth as many times as it feels good. Then when you're ready, go ahead and plant the feet in front of you. We're going to bring the weight forward and come into a standing forward fold, keeping a nice bend in the legs, letting the head dangle. You can keep your fingertips on the floor and just collapse this way or grab onto the calves or heels. Just doing whatever feels good. I like to alternate straightening and bending the legs just to feel the openness start to come in the hamstrings and the hips on each side. And using the feet to heel toe out wider, about as wide as your mat, we're just coming into a slightly wider forward fold. And this gives us a little bit more movement, a little bit more space in the middle that we can go back and forth. Go ahead and wiggle the hips, bend into the knees. Then we're going to lengthen out the spine, see if we can come out to a flat back with our fingertips on the floor, or you can use blocks here to help reach the floor. Just extending and then collapsing back down, heel toe the feet back closer together, about hip distance apart. And then we're going to take a slow roll up to standing. Bend the knees, feel every vertebrae stack until our head is the tippy last thing. Ground down through the left foot. We're going to bring the right knee into our hands and pull that hip close. So bringing the thigh as close to the tummy as you can. I like to flex the foot to help keep my balance. Then we're going to take a lean back. So we're sort of keeping tension in the arms, pulling back on the knee and taking an arch to stretch the front of that left hip flexor. It's hard to balance here, and go ahead and rise back up. Take that right ankle across the left knee and stretch down into a figure four here. I like to keep my hands at my heart and bend down like you're in your chair pose, taking the bum low. The lower your bum, the more of that stretch you'll feel. Rise back up to standing, keep floating that right knee. Then we're going to extend it behind us into a warrior three. Hands can stay at your heart. and then slowly bend into the left leg to come down into a low lunge position. Drop the back knee and take the arms up high. You can keep the back toe tucked or flatten out the foot, just sinking deep as you can, whatever feels good here. And then wiggling that foot to the outside edge of your mat to come into a lizard lunge. You can leave the knee down, and if it feels good, lower the elbows to the floor or to the mat, to a block. Whatever is best for your body and whatever's in your practice. You can let this bent leg in the front kind of open up. I like to let the pinky toe edge of my foot roll to the mat just to really open up in that left hip. Then if you're on your elbows, rise back up onto the hands. We're going to wiggle the left foot back across the mat all the way to the other edge and let the left knee meet the mat into your pigeon pose. If the left side of your bum does not rest on the mat, that's perfectly great. Just take a block or pillow to help support under that side so you can keep good alignment in the hips that should both be facing the top of the mat. We're going to take this into an active stretch. So I'm tucking my back toe and I'm pushing that left shin into the mat to lift my hips up off the mat. I like to take my arms up above to feel a little bit more lifted, and then go ahead and relax into the pigeon pose. You can come down to the elbows if that's comfortable. You can take the elbows to a block or stay upright, whatever feels best to you. This is a pretty intense release in the hip, a nice passive stretch. So do whatever feels best, but try to get yourself to that edge where you're really feeling the stretch. And do not forget to breathe here. Your breath is what helps those joints and muscles relax into the pose. You are welcome to pause the video and stay here as long as feels good. If you're ready to move on, we're going to swing this right leg in front of us and place our right knee on top of our left into a cow face position, sitting up nice and tall. This is intense on the hips. The further your feet are from your bum, the more intense you'll feel it in the stretch. If this is feeling good, stay upright. If you can creep the torso forward into a fold, you'll feel this even more intensely. Again, just find that line where you're not in pain, but you are feeling this release in the hips. On an inhale, see if you can lengthen out the spine, and then exhale a little bit deeper into the fold. Spend a few moments here. And then go ahead and sit back up if you're folded over. Twist towards the left and plant the hands behind us. Rotating on the balls of the feet, we're just untwisting our legs and taking the bum high into this wide-legged fold. So my feet didn't change position on the mat, still on the edges here. For this wide-legged loose fold, we can bend and release in the hips and in the hamstrings. Then we're going to continue to twist the same direction. My feet are staying where they are. I'm just letting the other knee now come on top into my cow face position. So left knee should be stacked on top of the right, and we're sitting up nice and tall. And then as we did on the other side, you can creep the hands forward and come to a fold over the legs. You might want to try, if you didn't on the other side, to see if this hip feels different. Oftentimes one side will feel more release or more tight. It just depends on your body and what feels good for you. Again, not forgetting to breathe here. Inhaling lots of fresh air to get to those joints so we can release more into this pose. When you're ready, walk the hands back in and sit up tall. This time we're going to take this left leg that's on top, take it back behind us, and we're on our pigeon on the other leg now. Remembering you can support the hips by putting a block underneath so that the hip bones can both face the top of the mat. Tuck that back foot and push into the front shin to lift the hips up for an active pigeon here. Inhaling, arms above the head, feeling nice and strong in this active stretch. And then exhale, release everything down onto the mat. You can come to the elbows or stay up on the hands. Inhale to push up onto the hands, come back to an upright position. We're going to lift up the front leg and wiggle this foot to the other side of the mat, the other edge, into our lizard lunge on this side. So you can keep the back knee on the floor and stay up on the hands, just reaching the chest forward. You can lower the elbows to the mat or to the block if that's in your practice. And then again, letting that right foot roll to the pinky toe edge if it feels good to let that knee fall open. If you're on your elbows, go ahead and push up to your hands. And we're going to wiggle the right foot back to the center of the mat into just our low lunge position. Arms can rise above the head or stay on the hips or the front knee. Then we're going to take the weight forward and try to float this back leg up into our warrior three. Balancing on the right leg now, hands at our heart. And then bringing the left knee forward, rising up to float it in front of us in our standing position. And grab a hold with hands here. Pull it tight into your chest, and then place that left ankle on the right knee and sink down into a figure four stretch on this side. Take a big inhale here, and then as we exhale, rise back up, float the knee one more time. We're going to take that little arch so we can feel into that right hip flexor in the front. And rise back up straight to standing. See if you can release the arms and keep that knee tucked before letting it float back down to meet your other on the mat. Rise up onto the balls of the feet, and we're going to slowly bend the knees to bring the tailbone towards the heels, seeing if you can stay on the ball of the feet all the way until you reach the heels, and then slowly release and place the bum on the floor and roll back onto your back. We're going to take a supine figure four stretch. So right ankle crossed on left knee. We're going to reach through with our right hand and then meet the left hand behind the left thigh and then pull that towards our chest, trying to keep our entire spine on the floor. I like to use my right elbow to sort of push that right knee away from me. You can hold the front of the shin or behind the thigh, just whatever works best for your body. And trying to keep the hips square to get this full benefits of this stretch. On an exhale, release the hands and let the left foot meet the mat. Then continue to cross that right leg all the way over like you're sitting in a chair, and then let the knees fall off the left side of the mat. You can take your arms out to your sides or take a cactus and then gaze over the right shoulder to complete this twist. Bring the knees back to center, undo that twist, and then take left ankle to right knee, reaching through again and holding behind that right thigh this time, or the front of the right shin, and then using that left elbow to push the left knee away. Again, trying to keep the spine nice and long on the mat. Remember that in order to benefit as much as we can from this stretch, we want to relax in the hips and not hold any tension there. On an exhale, release the hands, let that left leg cross all the way over, and then take the knees off the right side of the mat, this time gazing over your left shoulder. Arms can be out at a T, or if you don't have enough room, just cactus arms. Bring the knees back to center, uncross the legs. We're going to bring the knees up high like we're trying to pull them to our armpits in this sort of wide version of a wind relieving pose, holding tight to the front of the shins, just for one last compression in the front of the hips. And then you can take hold of the big toes with fingers, or take the hands to the pinky toe edge of the feet into your happy baby pose. You can rock left to right if that feels good, or alternate, straightening one leg at a time if that's in your practice. Whatever feels best for your body as we're lowering the heart rate. On an exhale, release the feet and let them come down to the mat, soles of the feet together, knees out wide in our supine butterfly stretch or a Supta Baddha Konasana, just letting gravity do its work on our knees. If this is too intense, you can put blocks or pillows underneath the knees to support. Take the hand to the outside of the thighs and close the knee like you're closing a book. Then wiggle the feet to the edges of your mat and let the knees fall together. We're going to settle in for a Shavasana in this position. It's a little more supportive and not as exposing and vulnerable for those hips that we just worked really hard. You can take the hands to your belly or out to your sides. Try to close off the eyes and find stillness here. Please stay in your Shavasana as long as you would like. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, and I will see you next time.